Most men do not realize how quietly comparison poisons them. Not through envy that attacks loudly, but through a slow erosion of self-respect. You open your phone and see men your age driving better cars, traveling to better countries, marrying better women, building better bodies, living better lives. And you do not feel jealousy exactly. You feel something worse. You feel that what you have built is nothing. Modern life has created a silent benchmark in every man's pocket. Instagram feeds are no longer entertainment. They are measurement devices. Every scroll is a micro-verdict. You are winning or you are behind. And the most terrifying part is that you are often unaware that you are being judged. You feel bad without knowing why. You close the app without realizing it just carved another line in your self-worth. Men today are not exhausted from work. They are exhausted from reference points. A man cannot feel pride in his progress when he is staring at someone else's finish line. A man cannot feel peace in his pace when he is surrounded by timelines not his own. This is the mental cage of 2025. Not poverty, not war, not lack of opportunity. The cage is invisible measurement. There is a reason ancient men did not compare themselves the way we do. Their village had maybe 50 men. You competed only with the life you could see and touch. If a man had more, it was because he fought more, planted more, built more. It was traceable and therefore acceptable. But now you compare yourself with ghosts. You compare work in progress to a polished clip that took 12 takes in an editing app. You compare private struggle to someone else's public highlight. No wonder you feel like a failure. The Stoic Epictetus said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Notice the implied assumption. Improvement requires disconnecting from the gaze of others. Progress happens when you stop performing and start becoming. You cannot build your own life while staring sideways. Comparison robs you twice. First, it steals peace. Then it steals speed. Because a man who feels behind behaves like a man in panic. He chases shortcuts, gambles on fast money, burns his energy comparing instead of building. A man who believes he is behind does not build with patience. He builds with desperation. And desperation is slow. The modern economy rewards men who can stay in their lane longer than others can tolerate. Not men who sprint after every new trend. Not men who switch lanes when someone else looks faster. Wealth is rarely a byproduct of intensity. It is a byproduct of duration. And duration is impossible when your eyes are not forward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if they have not examined the evidence." Replace men with internet. The opinion of the internet is worthless because it never examines the evidence behind a life. It only sees surface. You torture yourself over perception built on shadows. The reveal is simple. The enemy is not comparison itself. Humans compare by nature. The enemy is comparing your current chapter to someone else's end credits. The enemy is forgetting the price they paid in private for the thing you see in public. The enemy is believing your path must resemble another man's path for it to be valid. You want to become wealthy? Then you must stop calibrating your ambition by other men's results. Wealth is built through compound focus, not compound comparison. The mental exercise is this: every time you feel the sting of comparison, do not ask why he is more. Ask instead, what single controllable action can I do in the next 60 minutes that moves my life forward by 1 unit? Replace envy with output. Replace observation with construction. Replace scrolling with 1 brick laid. Action. Choose 1 domain: money, body, craft, or discipline, and commit to a 90-day blind sprint. No checking competitors. No comparing incomes. No asking, am I ahead yet? You work 90 days as if you are the only man alive. Track only what you could control. Then measure again. Because here is the truth men hate to admit. You do not need validation to become wealthy. You do not need momentum to begin. You do not need permission to change pace. You need only to stop looking sideways long enough to remember you are not racing them. You are building you. Let the music swell here. You are behind only in the world you do not belong to. You are late only on paths that are not yours. Your life is not slow. It is custom. And the day you stop comparing is the day wealth finally has room to accumulate inside a quiet, undistracted, undivided mind. Men today are raised inside invisible scoreboards. School ranks them, social media ranks them, net worth ranks them. Even romantic value is ranked by invisible markets. When a man breathes, he competes. When he wakes, he checks. When he sleeps, he replays the scoreboard in his head. This is why even successful men cannot rest. They are not tired from effort. They are tired from comparison. The lie is that comparison makes you sharper, that it keeps you hungry, that you need other men ahead of you to ignite drive. That is not hunger. That is insecurity wearing armor. Hunger is internal. Hunger is self-issued. Insecurity is externally injected. A man who is driven by others is not a free man. He is animated by borrowed purpose. The modern man lives with constant pressure he never speaks about. The pressure of being visible. The pressure of being measured. The pressure of not falling behind. In 1990, if you failed, 30 people knew. In 2025, if you fail, 3,000 strangers watch. So men do not take risks. They curate. They posture. They delay beginnings because they fear being seen at chapter 1. An ancient samurai teaching says, when in doubt, take the step. The hesitation kills faster than the sword. The wisdom here is not about war. It is about forward motion despite imperfection. Modern men hesitate not because they lack ability, but because they imagine an audience that does not exist. Your brain lies to you. It tells you that people are watching you the way you watch others. They are not. They are too busy watching themselves. You compare up, but nobody is comparing down at you with the same intensity. You are playing a game alone, against an imagined gallery of judges that are not looking at you. Stoic teaching again speaks here. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." You imagine judgment. You imagine failure exposed. You imagine humiliation archived online forever. And because of that imagination, you do not move. Meanwhile, the men you compare yourself to simply acted without the burden of imaginary eyes. The reveal is brutal. You are not late because someone is ahead. You are late because you keep stopping to look sideways. A race run while looking over your shoulder is a slow race. The ancient soldier did not pause to scan every other warrior. He locked on the front. He lived or died on his own line. The application is simple, but not easy. Identify one area where comparison has paralyzed you. Starting a business, posting work, approaching the woman, moving to another city, changing careers. Ask yourself this question bluntly. If no one could see me fail, would I start? If the answer is yes, then it is not ability that stops you. It is audience. And audience is an illusion. So your rule for the next 30 days is this. Build in silence. Do not announce targets. Do not post the early stages. Do not seek applause. Create without witnesses. Begin projects as if you had no one to impress and no one to disappoint. Work is pure when it is not performed. You cannot be compared on what is not broadcast. Understand something that could change your pace permanently. Wealth is not built by the men who are the most talented. It is built by the men who are the least distracted. The most focused man often beats the most gifted man simply because focus compounds while comparison dilutes. Close this chapter with a thought that is both heavy and liberating. Nobody is waiting for you to win. Nobody is tracking your scoreboard. The world is indifferent. And that indifference is freedom. Because if they are not watching, you are free to begin poorly, free to iterate privately, free to build slowly. The chains were never in their judgment. The chains were in your belief that they were watching. The door has always been unlocked. Walk forward. Modern men do not lose wealth because of lack of opportunity. They lose wealth because comparison sabotages financial judgment. A man who believes he is behind will not invest rationally. He will chase shortcuts. He will abandon slow compounding because someone else already has what he wants. Comparison makes money emotional instead of strategic. You see another man your age buy a car you cannot afford, and instead of asking how long he was disciplined before this purchase, you feel shame. Shame turns into urgency. Urgency turns into reckless financial decisions. You sign contracts too early. You chase trend you do not understand. You rush to flip instead of build because waiting feels like losing. This is how comparison destroys net worth without touching your bank account. It rewires your time horizon. Wealth is a function of boring consistency stretched across unreasonable time, but comparison compresses time. It tells you that if you are not rich by 28, you failed. It tells you that if someone else made millions faster, your lane is broken. It convinces you that patience is humiliation. Look at the digital economy. There has never been a time in history with so many visible examples of fast outcomes. Crypto screenshots, stock screenshots, 19-year-olds with McLarens, dropshippers showing dashboards, creators flashing brand deals. These images do not just inspire. They deform your risk tolerance. They push you from builder to gambler. Ancient wisdom anticipated this without knowing screens would exist. Lao Tzu wrote, "He who rushes ahead does not go far." The man in a hurry has already failed in principle. Wealth is sprint resisted, not sprint performed. Victory goes to the man who can endure the boredom of repetition without needing applause or comparison. You must understand the reveal in modern terms. The reason comparison kills wealth is because money obeys psychological laws long before economic ones. If your self-concept is bruised, your financial judgment becomes erratic. If you feel behind, you cannot execute a decade plan. You will only chase next month miracles. And miracle chasing ends in resets, not results. The application here is blunt. You must choose a financial game you are willing to play for 10 years minimum without inspecting what other men are earning. Real estate, software, high-income skill, media business, acquisitions, capital markets, tradecraft. The game matters less than the duration. Wealth emerges from unbroken compounding, not ideal selection. For 30 days, track this one metric only. Did I add one new deliberate brick to my economic engine today? Not what others made. Not what others bought. Not if you feel ahead. Binary. Did you add or not add? A man measuring others loses control of his thermostat. A man measuring only his own input becomes inevitable. The pain you feel about money is not about money. It is about rank. You do not want enough. You want more than him. You do not want freedom. You want proof. That is why you starve even when you are fed. You cannot taste what is yours if your tongue is trained to someone else's portion. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Translate that into 2025. It is not the man who is early in the journey who is poor. It is the man who cannot be early without shame, because he will burn his compounding to catch a ghost. Close with this. Nothing is more expensive than a man who builds to be seen, because he must constantly buy faster outcomes to defend an image that is not even judged by anyone who matters. The man who stops comparing becomes financially dangerous not because he knows more, but because he can finally stick to one plan long enough for math to finish its work. Wealth is patient math aware of its own lane. Comparison is panic math aware of other men's lives. You cannot be both rich and reactive. Pick one. Comparison does not just distort your decisions. It rewrites your identity. When you compare, you stop becoming yourself and start becoming a reaction to other men. You build not from conviction, but from correction. You pivot not because your soul demands a different road, but because someone else's road looks faster, shinier, or more socially rewarded. You become a copy of a copy, never an origin. Most men in 2025 have no interior definition of success. If you stripped away audience and applause, they would not know what to want. Their goals are borrowed. Their ambition is secondhand. They decide what to chase only after they see someone else receive validation for having it. This is not ambition, this is imitation wearing ambition's jacket. Identity rot begins when a man stops asking, "What does my life require?" and starts asking, "What do others expect to see me become?" Once that shift happens, the man is no longer writing his life, he's curating it for approval. And curated lives are expensive, exhausting, and spiritually hollow. A samurai maxim says, if you focus on the opponent, you have already lost. The warrior's duty is not to the opponent's shape, but to his own form. A distracted sword is a dull sword. A life aimed by reference to others cannot cut cleanly through resistance. You do not need to beat other men. You need to become the man you could have been without interruption. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, it is possible to be untouched by what touches others. He understood identity must be insulated. If your sense of self is tied to external scoreboards, then every headline, every success post, every rumor, every trend brews a crisis inside you. You are not you. You are whatever the world broadcasts that day. The reveal is this: comparison is not a measurement habit. It is an identity hijack. It convinces you that worth is external and relative. It conditions you to believe that you exist only in contrast to other humans. Once you accept that lie, you will never feel finished, never feel enough, never feel grounded, because your identity lives on rented land. Application: sit in a quiet room and write one page titled, "If no one could see my life, what would I still choose to build?" Remove all audience effects. Remove all social reward signals. Strip goals to what would matter in a world where you are unseen and unranked. The goals that survive that filter are the only goals that belong to you. Everything else is costume. Then identify one behavior in your current life that exists only for optics. It might be a purchase, a posting habit, an opinion, a work pursuit you do not believe in. Remove it. Identity is purified not only by addition of truth, but by subtraction of performance. Understand something violent in its simplicity. There is no such thing as losing in life if the game is self-authored. Losing only exists when the rules are borrowed. A man who stops comparing becomes undefeated not because he always wins, but because he stopped playing other men's games. Close this chapter with a blade of truth. The world does not need more replicas of successful men. It needs men who are sovereign, men who know their reasons without outsourcing them, men whose pace is not negotiated by someone else's highlight reel. The moment you reclaim authorship, comparison dies from starvation. And a man without comparison is not just calm, he is ungovernable. You cannot stop comparing by force. You stop comparing by replacing the mental environment that breeds comparison. A man with no system will drift back to measuring others because an unoccupied mind defaults to reference points. The cure is not motivation. The cure is architecture. A life built with deliberate structure leaves no oxygen for comparison. Look at men who rise quietly. They are not stronger than you genetically. They are not luckier. They are architected. Their days are not left to mood or impulse. They remove variables. They script repetitions. They eliminate visibility into other lanes. They do not allow comparison because they have no space or bandwidth for it. Ancient monastic disciplines understood this better than tech-age men. The Desert Fathers wrote, "When the mind is idle, it carves idols. An idle mind invents external gods to worship and fear." Modern idols are not statues. They are other people's lives. If you do not bind your daily attention to a narrow lane, you will wander into worshiping strangers. Your system must do three things. First, eliminate exposure to comparison triggers. Second, replace external scoreboards with internal ones. Third, create compounding loops that lock attention forward. Without these three, motivation leaks and comparison returns. Step 1 is subtraction. For 30 days, unfollow or mute every account that triggers urgency, shame, or envy. This is not weakness. This is environmental engineering. A seed does not fight the concrete. It is moved to soil. You are not battling comparison, you are starving it. Step 2 is internal scoreboard. Replace "what did others achieve" with "what did I execute?" Track controllables only. Hours in craft, reps in skill, pages written, calls made, proposals sent, code shipped, miles ran. A man tracking only his own inputs becomes immune to the appearance of others' outputs. Step 3 is compounding loop. Choose one habit in money building, one habit in body discipline, one habit in mental stillness. Perform them daily regardless of mood. When you repeat the same bricks longer than other men tolerate boredom, you detach from their pace. Nothing kills comparison faster than visible self-evolution over time. The Stoics practice premeditation, imagining setbacks in advance to immune the mind. You must do the same with comparison. Assume you will see someone younger, richer, fitter, further. Expect it. And rehearse the replacement thought. Instead of "why him?" ask "what brick now?" You train the mind to rear out impulse into construction. The reveal is this. Silence is not the absence of noise. Silence is the removal of reference. Wealth, peace, and self-authorship grow in that silence because your energy returns inward. A man who lives forward does not have leftover attention to look sideways. Close with a simple law. The man who controls his environment controls his identity. If your feeds, your friends, your habits, your schedule, your physical space are designed with intention, comparison cannot survive inside it. You do not defeat comparison by arguing with it. You starve it by living so narrowly on your own line that other lines vanish. Systems create sovereignty. Sovereignty kills comparison. And when comparison dies, your acceleration begins. There is a quiet transformation that happens when a man stops looking sideways. His nervous system becomes slower. His breathing steadies. His urgency dissolves. Not because he lacks ambition, but because his ambition is no longer polluted by other men's timelines. He begins to move like someone who knows the destination is inevitable. That calm is not softness. It is a form of power. A man without comparison becomes dangerous because he stops negotiating with his own pace. He stops second-guessing directions every time he witnesses another outcome. He no longer tears down and restarts his life every 4 months. He becomes consistent. And consistency, when stretched across years, is more violent than intensity. It erodes obstacles. It compounds wealth. It reforms identity. Ancient generals understood this. Sun Tzu wrote, "Victorious warriors win first and then go to war." The victory he spoke of is internal. When a man no longer battles imagined audiences or phantom opponents, his war is half won before he takes a step. He is not building to be seen. He is building to be finished. The modern reveal is blunt. Peace makes men faster, not slower. Focus is acceleration. A mind not entangled in comparison is a mind free to stack hours, stack bricks, stack progress without bleeding energy into self-doubt. When the reference dies, momentum is no longer interrupted, and wealth finally has time to accumulate. The application for the rest of your life is this rule: measure only obedience to your path, not position on any scoreboard. If today you executed the brick that belonged to today, you are ahead. If you pause to look at someone else's brick, you are behind. The state of winning is not on the outside. It is in whether you stayed on your line. Identity is now returned to you. You are no longer a mirror of other men. You no longer build from insecurity. You no longer chase symbols to catch up with illusions. You build what is yours at the pace that is yours for reasons that are yours. That is sovereignty. And sovereignty is the most reliable path to wealth a man can own. Close this chapter like the camera is pulling back slowly. You were never late. You were never losing. You were never behind. You were simply looking in the wrong direction. The moment you face forward, the race collapses. There is no opponent. Only distance left to cover and time still available to cover it. You do not need applause. You do not need witnesses. You do not need to outperform strangers to become wealthy. You need a quiet mind, a long lane, and a willingness to build without comparison until compounding makes the difference undeniable. Remember what this entire message has been trying to tell you. Comparison is the thief not of happiness, but of momentum. It interrupts the very compounding that wealth requires. The day you stop comparing is not the day you become less ambitious. It is the day your ambition becomes pure. A man who belongs fully to his own lane will eventually lap men who sprint after every glittered shortcut. Wealth is not speed. It is direction preserved across time. Protect your direction. Guard your lane. Build without witnesses. And let silence make you inevitable,